move into the regular board meeting. Do we need to
Adopt the agenda.
second it and then end it?
You asked this particular public hearing. It's part of the regular meeting, so you technically don't have to adjourn and move into the
Okay.
regular session.
Okay, so I motion that we move into the regular meeting, and that we adopt the agenda for this May 12th meeting.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
And call for the vote. Myself, yes. Jeremy?
Yes.
Eldon?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
You want to do the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for the regular meeting of April 14th, 2020, as they have been presented.
I'll second it.
Call for the vote. Rhonda?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Jeremy?
Yes.
Eldon?
Yes.
So now we go into reports. Mr. Fields?
Yes, we have several different things going on right now, as I know you're all aware, and you receive some update emails from the ASBA and different organizations. The quarantine is still in effect, and we're working through that, doing the best we can. We have some essential employees working on campus and doing their thing. Others employees, such as teachers, working from home. So the state has just published a template of a plan to get students back for next year. It's a 3-phase plan, and it has some guidelines about planning for schools to open in the fall or summer. So we're going to review that a little bit closer. This just came out yesterday. We're going to look at that a little closer, and it appears that we're on track. We're in phase 1 right now. The state isn't finished giving guidelines with COVID. The governor's supposed to come out with some more information prior to March 16th. So we'll wait and see what that is. There's a lot of questions with where we're going to be going with schools. So a lot of concern. The state did receive what they're calling CARES Act funding, almost $300 million for schools. So that's going to be something to help schools with transitions, such as if there's a loss of enrollment, maybe in some districts, and it has a big impact on funding, things like that. So that that's all currently in the works. That's important information, and if you have questions on that at any time, if you think of them now or at any time, just go ahead and let me know. And if I don't have the answer, I'll find the answer for us. Other than that, we have planning that's going on for next year, such as recruiting and interviewing staff. The principals are working hard towards that, and I'm assisting wherever I can. We have some recommendations on the agenda for tonight. Other projects still going on, maintenance projects, custodial work, curriculum planning. I mentioned in my report, the principals and I are busy ordering and preparing the curriculum for next year, like in on an MPC training on Monday. I'll defer to him in his report if he wants to talk any more about that. They're really taking some steps to improve what they're doing, keep up with education and the needs of students leaving high school. So a lot of things, a lot of good things. Little impact to us with budgeting, but nothing that we're already coming up with solutions to things, and you'll be informed about those as they come up. The ultraviolet lights that Mr. Neal actually he had the idea and the plan to put those in place, and I thought it was a very good idea. They're up now. He's got those in the office and high traffic areas to help sanitize the COVID virus. I'll let Mr. Miller answer questions on the graduation unless you have something you want to direct to me right now, or we can wait until his report. But other than that, I'll answer any questions that you might have for me.
Where are we with the electric car station?
Still in the works. So the workers or the company that's working with APS comes from California. So they don't make a lot of trips here, but they're making their plans, and they haven't given me a construction timeline. But I do know they were here. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago to redraw their plans because they had misplaced them or whatever. So
I noticed they did the blue stake markings, and those are only good for a certain length of time before they have to get them redone. So
when did they do those? Do you know?
a week ago, I think, is when they were, and I think they only last for 21 days or something like that.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, all they got to do is call it in and have them remark it, but we have to deal with that. It's a pain. Any questions for Mr. Fields? Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, we will jump right into graduation. We had potentially thought about, if all the restrictions were lifted, that we might be able to do a partially live graduation. However, we decided, when we were extended, that we better not. So we've been in the works of recording the seniors and other people to put together that graduation. It's going to be online May 21st at 7 o'clock. It'll be on YouTube. And so we'll get out the links to everybody. It'll be on YouTube. We'll put a link on Facebook and our website so everybody has it. I'll send out a message to all of our students and their parents so they know when graduation will be. And that's going to be May 21st. It actually worked out really well because we just received guidance from the state saying that they recommend that no one holds any graduation. So it goes along with the guidance that we've received from the state.
Not to say that you won't hear that some schools are going to be trying to do things. Down in Phoenix, I have a nephew. It was a big district down there, and they're running one of these big sports facilities, and they're trying. It's not finalized, but there are some schools doing that, and I'm not sure why. But you might hear that, and so.
Yeah, it's not in law. It's the guidance that they've given us. One of the things, so I guess just to explain it, each senior will be shown answering some questions like their favorite high school memories, what they're doing after high school, some things they learned. And then we also, Mr. Fields is doing a message, I'm doing a message, and we're going to ask the board to do a congratulatory message to the seniors that we can include in there. So the question is up to you. Do we want all of you together to do it? Do we want just Karsten to do it?
The board president and represent the board, just a congratulatory statement.
Up to you. And it doesn't need to be anything long, 10 seconds.
There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can all stand together and one person speak, or individual messages, or just on behalf of the governing board, we'd like to congratulate the class of 2020. Something that pretty much
I like that.
Okay.
Write that down, Karsten. That's what you need to say.
Thank you.
So I'll tell you what, maybe you could just let Kathy or I know, or Mr. Miller directly, and we'll line that out. I don't think you need them to decide right this moment.
No, we'll need the recording in the next day or two. It's just
school bus.
Back up a few times.
But so I'll work with you on
Okay.
getting that done.
I think Thursday and Friday I'll have some time.
Let's do
I'll
it
get-
Thursday then.
Okay.
Mr. Forey's he's putting the video together. He's already videoed over half the seniors, and he'll be spending the weekend and part of next week putting it together. So
Okay. I'll get with you Thursday morning.
okay.
Yeah, or we could, if you're ready, we could do it tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that simple. We could
Yes.
use a phone or whatever.
Yeah, if you want to just do it tonight before you leave, that would be simple, unless you want to think about it first. So
Or
I
if
would
other-
like to think about it, and Rhonda can send me what Mr. Field said so I can say it.
all right.
Well, I thought it was good, straight to the point.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear you talk a bunch.
They might.
One thing we are trying is focusing more on the individual students, and so there's not going to be a whole lot, not a guest speaker and all of that mixed in. So I don't want to tell you too much because I think you'll enjoy it, and I want it to be kind of a surprise. So another item, and I think I'm pretty sure it's a item for you guys to discuss later on, but I'll just give you a little bit that I had in my board report here. Due to the cancellation of the senior trip, been working with the senior class on how to use the money that they raised. What we have set up, and obviously that's going to be something you can talk about later or ask me questions, is for them to donate a portion of that to the school as a kind of like a service project. And I've been working with the senior class discussing options, and they were going to donate roughly $2,500 for a project to the school out of that money, and then the rest they would like to each divide it up between those that had qualified for the senior trip. So
Was this their idea, or did you lead them to this idea
which part?
of giving back some of it to the school?
They had already, this class had actually,
Okay.
even before COVID, had talked about doing some kind of give back donation to the school. So I did, they didn't approach me about it, but about a week ago I approached them, and they're like, yeah, we've been talking about it for a while and we wanted to do that anyways. So
You talked to them a little bit about NPC, those things that
You
are going
can't do
on.
it.
yep, so what's gone on with NPC for the past, has it been 4 years the talent program's been going? I think it's been 4 years that NPC has had a grant from, a grant that has allowed them to provide college courses on high school campuses. So we have a room, and I think you are all aware of it, where NPC has equipment in there. Their instructors broadcast live to our students during the school day. Well, that grant is ending, and so they've been working at finding out ways to keep that program going. And what they decided to do is to charge the schools for the equipment upkeep, and then all the students will be able to take classes for free through that program, which is a great benefit to the school and the students. And during the Talent Grant program, we were restricted on how many classes and how many students we could offer. But now they're going to let us use as many, for example, Spanish. We can have as many Spanish students take Spanish as we would like.
And what kind of money are we talking for the upkeep? Did they mention?
Yeah, and that was been more the district side. We're coming out ahead is the short answer. We would have to, it's saving us on staff, that we would be hiring Spanish teachers and things of this nature if we weren't offering these satellite classes.
Right.
And we have been planning for this. This is, the upcoming year is the first time that we're not going to, it's a nominal cost for the equipment and just a good financial deal. So we kind of knew about that, but I wanted him to talk more about some of the things NPC, besides the additional classes that he's actually worked closely with them, like the Navajo language and the some of the other classes, like to offer what they call asynchronistic classes, where they don't have to be there live. They can join anytime. It gives us flexibility in the schedule. but the cost that for these students, they've really dropped. That's kind of the big thing here.
Correct. So it's going to be very beneficial for us, and we've saved probably at least a half-time teacher, possibly closer to a full-time teacher by using that program. So
No cost to students, high school students that want to do any MPC, basically is the deal they're offering, and they're trying to waive all textbook fees. Is that right?
correct. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Their board stepped up and did some big things like that. It's a great deal for our students if they're going to continue on that direction. The one thing they've hit us with financially is they're no longer going to fund the dual enrollment teachers, that little stipend that they get. We currently are expecting 3 teachers on staff, but we found out today from the State Department that there's a federal non-competitive grant that we manage that we can use those funds for. So we'll be bringing that to you. So those teachers will still get paid. It's going to be a good deal all the way around.
Excellent. Potentially a student could graduate with 13, 14 college classes if they want to get busy and take all that we offer. So that's a big deal. Just a heads up, end of school year. This is the last week for our students to submit work. We'll have grades ready next week. And just due to all of the restrictions right now, we've pushed end of year student checkout into June. We haven't chosen a date yet, but as we kind of see what the state's doing, then we'll be able to narrow down some dates. That is all I have, unless you have questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Eric?
Does this eliminate the ASU program that was Spanish literacy?
No, but it's an another option. So they're going to have some things that they can probably offer that MPC can't. But MPC is actually, what they told us yesterday is they're working closely with ASU. So they're calling it a 2+2 program. So ASU is coordinating with them, so all their credits will transfer now. There's not going to be any issue like there has in the past with that. So that's kind of cool. That's still an option for our students, but MPC is trying to make it's competitive, and they're trying to look more attractive, and so far they're doing a pretty good job.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins?
Yeah, I apologize. I don't think you have my report there or anything. Some of the highlights that's going on. Working on class lists and things for next year. My staff will be checking out next week. I'll be giving them a scheduled time to come and meet with me. Just the same as Mr. Miller, we've wrapped up our learning packets and things, and students have been turning those in this week. And we've also worked to pass back a bunch of the student belongings that were left in their desk or lockers or whatever. Not all of those have been delivered. If a student doesn't receive it, we'll just hold on to it till we start school next year, and they can get it then. Our yearbooks came in, and we've got a lot of those. We've actually sold most of them. We only have like 15 left. So we hope to be able to sell those. As Mr. Fields mentioned, been working on some orders for next year, and we look to hopefully have our report cards out next week. That's our goal. With intramurals, Mr. Miller and I met, and what we decided with our intramural program, since it couldn't happen this spring due to the school closure, we went ahead and gave the students their shirts that they had purchased, and we're going to run a short program in the fall and invite those students to come and participate in that program at no cost, except for those that are, of course, going up to the junior high. They'll miss out, but they'll get their shirt. My son was excited just to get the shirt, so because he knows what that means. So that's kind of what's going on here. The other thing I wanted to say is I want to just say thank you to, because our last board meeting, but thank you to Mrs. Balda. She just finished 30 years in education. Not many people can say that. If you read the statistics, about 33% check out after year 1 or 2. And so she's made it 30 years, so kudos to her, and we appreciate her, not just her, all the teachers, but for her to stick it out and all that she's done for our school. So that's my report. If you have any questions for me, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you. Steve?
First thing I just wanted to do is give you a little bit of background on this technology situation we have with our board book. Board book has upgraded their software, and well, very soon they won't be supporting the old version anymore, and that's kind of why we did this. And we kind of a lot of work getting that conversion to happen. So tonight's kind of a let's see where the hard spots and the weak spots are that we can improve on and work with the board. But once we get it up and running, I think it'll be, there's some things that you'll probably like better and things that you won't like as well as the old version. But one of the things that it does is it has a feature where you as a board member can follow, we can control that centrally, so we can go to each budget item and pull up things, and you don't have to, you can opt to either follow or not, but if you follow, then you don't have to worry about moving around and keeping up on the budget, because sometimes it's kind of hard to do that when we jump around a bit. So there'll be that and a few other features. Another thing that you'll notice is as you go through when you review the agenda in preparation for the meeting, the layout is different than what we've been used to, and I hope I hope it works well for you. I think it's kind of once you get used to it, it's kind of nice because you have a lot of things all in one place rather than relying so much on attachments like we have in the past. So I think that'll hopefully be a good thing for us. So next, for the next board meeting, we'll try to have you a little bit more prepared. The implementation was a little more difficult and took longer than we expected. We hoped to have everything ready to go a week ago, and it just didn't work out. So that's kind of why we're down to the end here. But anyway, and you'll also notice there are a few tweaks to the way the agenda lays out and so forth, and we hope that works a little bit better for the board as well. The other thing I wanted to mention was our food service program. Some good news there. Of course, we're doing the grab-and-go meals, as you're aware, right now, and we kind of kicked it up with the services that we offer, or the number of meals we offer, rather. The Arizona Department of Education Food Services Division approved kind of an expansion of the grab-and-go program we were already doing, and so we're able to now send home meals for kids over the weekend. Now, there are a couple of good things about that. One, obviously, it helps families in need, and particularly those who are struggling right now with work situations because of the pandemic, isolation requirements, and so forth. But the other thing that it helps with is financially for the school district because of the reimbursements that we get from the federal and state government for that. So, as a consequence of that, in April, just got back our financial report on the food service program, and basically we are ahead for the month of April $8,000. We're generally either at break even or below. And so if we continue with a few more months like that, we'll be very close, not quite, but very close to break even for the entire year. So it's kind of helping out all the way around. So I thought that was some good news to share. Also just wanted to update you on our insurance open enrollment for employees. The final day of that is tomorrow. And all of that, like I mentioned before, was done online and seems to have gone well. I'm sure we'll hear about after the fact. We might still hear about some problems. You may have heard about problems, but as far as those that have come to us, very few problems. It's gone very well, I think, as far as I know. So that was good. We put a lot of work into being able to do all of that online and virtually and through videos and through online access to forms and information and stuff. So there's that, and then attached is the financial report as part of my report now. So that's all I've got, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you. Jason?
We're started for our summer projects. We got a month early, so we're gonna go ahead and start. We're gonna start blowing out machines. We've got probably 200 machines at the elementary and 200 more at the high school, but we're gonna do projectors. Blow them all out this week and next week. Next week after that, we're gonna start cloning hard drives and try a new imaging software. That's our plans for this month.
There's a plan to get the devices that we've turned out to the students as well.
Yep, I'm gonna work with Eric. Eric's been spearheading that.
Those were all checked out through our Follett system, like textbooks or anything else. So when we have our end of year checkout for the students, they'll check in all their textbooks, library books, and the laptops.
Yep, so hopefully everyone had a device to be able to talk to their teacher. Hopefully the teachers were able to do what they need to do. But we're gonna go move forward in the IT department. So.
Any questions for Jason?
I'll add one thing while he's up here in case there's any questions. He's spearheading one of the consent items here. It's a grant with ASU and Verizon for some junior high curriculum, entrepreneur curriculum that's technology-based, software-based, is online and stuff. And he's working with Mr. Miller on that. And I believe there's a webinar coming up, or is that?
22nd.
Okay, the 22nd, that they're going to participate in. So that's actually on the agenda tonight. So that's kind of exciting for us. One of 250 schools in the state, I think, that is participating with this program.
Thank you. Do you have a report for Brad?
Yeah, I have some verbal things I'd like to say.
Okay.
Now, I told Brad he didn't need to be here tonight. He's been putting in long hours for us here on site every day, and his workers too. They keep trying to keep up on the grounds and keep them ready for when school or summer camps or whatever, whenever we can reopen, so we'll be ready. And also doing some upgrades, like a couple things. They're doing of course, some work in the greenhouse you may have heard about, where they're reaching out to the community and giving some starter plants. Mr. Miller's helping with that, but Brad, he's in there, I think, just about every day. They're putting in a handicap ramp over between the voc ed room and the tennis courts. Which will be nice because there's some people that struggle with stairs, like in an evacuation. So I commend Mr. Miller and Mr. Neal for doing this project, coming up with the idea, because it's a good one. So that looks good. They've had some plumbing issues they're trying to take care of here in the front. They've had to do that one by hand because of some pipes and breaks and things of that nature, but it's they're keeping up on it. Other than that, I don't know if you have any questions about what they're doing, but I'll try and field them.
No question. Thank you. Okay. Individuals who wish to address the board are requested to complete the sign-in sheet prior to the meeting. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Action items as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or scheduling the matter for a future agenda. I'm guessing there's one. Bob? Thank you.
As all the board already knows, I contacted everyone individually to find out where we stood, how we could improve the efforts towards the bond, to find out if there's any areas we needed to iron out, so as to speak. And the amazing thing that came out of it, I was quite surprised, was some comments about we could spend better. And it was directed towards the school spending better, which kind of shocked me because the board does the spending, it authorizes contracts and it spends the money. So those comments kind of surprised me, took me by great surprise. And they thought maybe we could, through a miracle of budgeting, resolve the issues that I brought forth and the money that would be needed for those major areas that I outlined. I'm not a mathematician, but if I took $3 million and I took the $300 that we got in the override, back when we were robbing Peter to pay Paul, that's 1,000 years. So I'm not quite for sure how that magic would occur out of the budget office. So I'm a little concerned about how we arrive at some of these decisions or where we stand, because I've offered on various occasions to answer any questions. No one's asked questions. I presented some papers, and the comment I got from the board was, we'll look at it. I'm a little concerned because of time. The time is here. We no longer have options about time if we want to get it on the ballot. If you don't want to, that's great. I spent time bringing forth an option. If you have better options, I think we need to hear them before, at this meeting, and set an agenda to look at the budget if you want to have a budget meeting and make a decision on that. But I think the time's here. Guys, we don't have any more. So I think with that, I will wait until the end of the meeting when we have a discussion item.
Thank you. Go to consent. We don't have anything for executive session, is that correct?
Not on consent, unless you pull it off of consent.
Okay. I motion that we approve the consent agenda items under 4 all the way down to 5 personnel requests.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Call for the vote. Eldon?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dayton? Yes. Rhonda?
Yes.
Personnel requests.
Okay, yeah, if I could present this item. So this is one action item to accept the resignation of these 4 employees. Now, if there's an issue, we can pull any one of them off, but if not, you can just make one motion to accept those 4 resignations.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept all 4 of those resignations.
I'll second it.
Okay. Do we need any discussion? Okay. Myself, yes. Dayton? Rhonda?
Yes.
Eldon?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to B. Do we want to do all those together?
That's up to the board. This gives you the option. If you want to pull any of those out, you can make the motion and then make a discussion there on any of them, or you can make a motion to pull one out if there's a board member who would like to do that for whatever reason.
Does anybody have any that'd like to pull out and do separate?
I move we accept as presented personnel appointments.
Okay. I'll second it.
And discussion.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, maybe give them a minute. We're excited about these, so.
I think
we
that's
it
cool.
gives-
I think
yeah,
this is good things for our district.
Yeah.
Myself, yes. Dayton? Yes. Rhonda,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Eldon?
Yes.
And that moves us to action items. Revised budget for this school year.
That's Mr. Mills.
Steve?
I don't have anything more to add from what we discussed in the public hearing, so unless you have any questions.
So make sure you guys can all access anything you want to look at there. There's an attachment of about 13 pages or so.
Does it show how much the difference is? I mean, why it's being revised?
Yeah, well,
Don't we need to, before we talk about it, don't we need?
Oh, yeah.
That's
I
true.
move that we approve the action item A for the budget, the 2019-20 revised budget for Joseph City.
I'll second it.
Okay. It's all you, Steve.
Now we can talk about it.
Like highlight the revision, what line item that would be.
Yeah, the revision budget revision for M&O is about $65,000 less than the original budget, which most of that is because of the carryover that we ended up. We put on there that we're going to carry over because if you don't put it on there and you end up with more carryover than what you put on your budget, then it can be cause some difficulties, and so you kind of tend to overestimate there.
Yeah.
And so that's what the bulk of that is.
So for a change, we got money in our pocket instead of digging for more, right?
But we didn't get as much as he said we were.
Right.
Is that,
We
is that
don't
what you're
plan-
saying?
yeah,
That's why
we
we're
plan-
revising it?
Yeah, but we planned for that. And on capital outlay, or let me search capital, it's about $500 less than what we planned.
That's just again, that was a carryover issue. Plus, it'll vary a little bit depending.
So the budget's being revised down, not up.
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, for accurate record keeping and that because of COVID, they actually extended the deadline to get this done to June 15th. But Mr. Mills was ready to go this meeting with all the stuff, so that was good, I thought.
Is there any other questions or discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Dayton?
Yes.
Eldon?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Arizona School Board Association political action items. Mr. Fields?
Yes, thank you. So what you have in front of you, you have an action sheet from me with a recommendation. The governing board can do whatever they want. The ASBA has a lobbyist, and they ask for areas of focus for their lobbying to the state legislature. And they ask school boards to vote on this, and they do consider it, and they do have clout when they walk into education committee meetings when they say school districts are saying this is our priority. So it's important that we vote, I think. So I put this together. I'll submit it if we can come to consensus on what priorities from our district are. So,
I've seen it and I agree with it, but I can't find it in this.
Well, yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Where is it?
it's an action sheet. It says background for the ASBA.
Is it this one?
That has all of them. That has all of things that you could pick from. That has several items, and they asked us to pick 5. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I would say you open this up
What page is it?
with the motion and a second, and then I can answer questions or I can read my recommendation to you, the items that I recommend there.
I motion that we approve those. Okay.
You can see what we submitted last year. I included that on my action sheet, and then A little different this year because I think it's maybe more accurate to what would help our district the most.
Well, I think Mr. Fields is more familiar with what we need in this area than any of us are, and I say we just go with his recommendation.
If you don't mind, can I just highlight for the
Yeah.
principals and everyone else here in the room, priority number one of these are in no specific order, but the first one I'll mention here is to fund full-day kindergarten. This would help our district and early childhood development across the state. The research is very strong that shows if we can keep kids in school and start training them young, it's very beneficial for them. They're not funding it for currently. They fund kindergarten differently, as you know, like half a day, basically. So
What
that
about the things that Ms. Young has brought up in the past about the kids?
like they
I'm
can't
asking
stay
you.
the whole day or something like that.
Yeah, that,
Is one of her concerns. Yeah, I mean, when we say full day, they don't necessarily have to go to school the full time that a second grader or third grader goes, but full day includes some time in the morning, some time in the afternoon to
going to lunch and learning to
acclimate them
stay
to
at school longer.
just
Okay, but how are we, I know that in the past that one of the perks of having half days is she'd have kids in the morning and then kids in the afternoon. How, are we gonna have to get more teachers?
Possibly I could let Mr. Hutchins talk to that if he'd like to.
If we do what? If we go full day?
Yeah, well, never mind. I'll talk to it.
I thought we were.
Our kindergarten numbers are very. They look very good compared to a lot of districts. I personally know kindergarten teachers with 30 plus students, and they'll go the entire day. So we try to do things in moderation here without stressing our kids out or parents out too much. But at the same time, we want to start to get them acclimatized to being in school and learning and being independent. So if we were to exceed those numbers that we do for any grade, we would look to add aides or teachers.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers, but before we get too far off of letting that one go, another priority is to fund preschool. I think that could be a priority from our district. It would help our students, I think, here. A lot of districts have other revenue streams that they can start preschool or support a preschool with, Head Start and this, and we don't have that here. We do have a preschool program, but it's not open necessarily to everyone. I think that would definitely help students, so I put that on there. Eliminate unfunded mandates. Sometimes, and administrative burden. Sometimes they will pass laws that require us to put money into, and there's no funding associated with that. That's one that I think we should also remind the ASBA that it's tough for schools. Maximize state funding for national and locally competitive salaries. So basically to attract teachers and staff. We still feel like the hits we took there in the early 2000s, we haven't caught up to make Arizona salaries competitive. So that's why I included that one. And to ensure local control. Leave decisions to this governing board when appropriate, and not take that decision making away. Those were the 5 I thought of.
I think that's good. Comments? Okay. Call for the vote. Eldon?
Yep.
Jeremy? Myself, yes. Dayton?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Item C, I motion that we delegate authority to the superintendent to hire temporary student and event workers between governing board meetings.
I'll second it.
Do we need any
Yeah,
discussion?
Feel free to ask questions about this. What the intent was here, and like I told Mr. Flake when we set this was Mr. Mills' idea. I want to credit him for this. I think it's a good idea. This could ease the burden of supervisors when they go to, they're scrambling to put together a tournament, or they have a big project where labor intensive, and we don't have a governing board meeting for a month. And it's that kind of a situation. Their options are to hold a special governing board meeting to hire some labor, or tell them to hold off on the project or not have the event workers that we need at the tournament or whatever. So the thought behind this is we don't think it's going to happen very often, but when it occasionally happens, it will just take a little bit of the burden off some of the supervisors, like maintenance, the athletic director, the principals, things like that.
Any more discussion? And myself, yes. Dayton?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes,
Jeremy?
Yes.
Eldon?
Yes.
Professional growth and plan for classified staff and administration.
Mr. Mills would like to present this, but I suggest
don't
maybe
we
you
need to
vote on it
make a
first.
motion?
Yeah, motion.
I move that we accept the professional growth plan for classified staff and administrators as presented.
Thank you. This is something I'm kind of excited about. One of the things that has been difficult in our district is, we have professional growth plans in place for teachers in terms of, if you go and get additional college credit hours, and in some cases professional development that can result in a little bit bump in your salary. But we don't have anything in place for other people, and we've had those requests. I've been having discussions with employees for years, actually. Well, I'd really like to be able to progress in the district. I'd like to be able to move up. I'd like to get, maybe get certified in a certification in this or that, but there's no incentive to do that. What can you do for me? Is there a way for me to move a little farther up in the salary scale if I do that? And we really had no mechanism in place to compensate people for that. And so this is really kind of the result of discussions with people that I've had over the years, and concerns that have come up and so forth. So just just to summarize what this is we tried to make it kind of comparable to what we do for teachers. So in other words, but adapted a little bit to be able to accommodate the different situations that we might have for a classified employee. So for example, that this is up on the board there if you don't have it in front of you. So what it would be, what we're proposing is that there be a 5 cent per hour increase, or if you're a full-time salaried employee, that would amount to working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 12 months a year. That would amount to $104 a year. And that would be for each credit hour for job-related college coursework, or per 16 contact hours, which is roughly equivalent to what they consider a college credit hour, and that would be for job-related professional development. So it doesn't have to be college class that you go to, but if it's not, it needs to be equivalent. We need to have some kind of equivalency there, so we know how to measure that and how to compensate for that. All these would be for courses and training that are related to your job. However, there are situations, particularly in a school district, where you, for example, you have aides or others who want to become a certified teacher. And in that case, it may not be something that's directly related to their job. So we do have a provision in there for courses and training that are not job related. They do require superintendent approval. But that will give superintendent a chance to sort of evaluate that, and see if that makes sense for our district.
Shouldn't all of it be, shouldn't they have to kind of run it through the?
Well, that's,
Yes, and they do.
yes. Yes, but people, what you don't want to have to do is be in a situation where if we say, if they say, yeah, I want to get, say if you're a technology person, and I want to get certified in Yeah, yeah.
Or
some
something
kind of
that's
network
not-
management thing.
If it's not related to education and they want to get certified in it, we don't want to give them a raise necessarily for that.
Well, but the other thing, on the other side of that, we don't want to have to sit down and approve every single and review every single class they want to take. If we've said, yeah, that looks good, that fits what we want to do, go for it, then we might approve, say, a whole program at once, a course of study at once in advance. But yeah, typically those would, we would need to approve those in advance. So that's what that part is. And right now, we, just so you can kind of see where the equivalency might be with a teacher, is we compensate a teacher who works 10 months a year, $65 per credit hour. So if you extrapolate that out to, like I said, a full-time 40-hour week, 12-month a year position, it's very close to what it teacher would make if it were prorated out. On the and again, also for education, and this one probably is not as maybe as likely, but for a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or even a doctorate degree in job-related fields, then it would be either 26 cents per hour or 541 hours per year for a full-time salary employee. And again, that has some equivalency to what the teachers get. And then, but in addition, because again, we're talking about classified employees who their field doesn't necessarily lend itself to a university study. So we would add to that for professional certification equivalent to a college degree in job-related fields. So for example, if you're going to become a master welder, and we could really use a master welder, we would look at that, and it might not be $541 a year, depending on,
How it affects your job.
and how is it truly equivalent to a master's that a teacher would get? But we want to be able to compensate them something for that. And so again, we say here the equivalency and the amount would be determined by the superintendent. So say a master welder would look at that program, the time commitment and so forth, compared to say a teacher's master's degree or bachelor or whatever, and then make a determination.
And you feel like you're going to be able to come up with the money to pay this, right?
Yeah, I don't think. I doubt that we'll have droves of people that'll be taking advantage of this, but I do think it's important to create career paths for people. Yeah. Otherwise, they're not going to keep working for us. They're going to be always looking for
Don't we
another
already
job
have a way
somewhere.
to do that?
Not for classified. That's a great question. So this is the program that's brand new for classified employees, just to reiterate that. And the ROI is going to be, we feel like it's going to be beneficial for the district is the bottom line.
But, just playing devil's advocate here.
Okay.
I know we have approved classified employees raises in the past, just single because they've asked for it. We've done it. So I know we can do it. So to me, this kind of takes out of the hands of us. We're going to have no idea as a board how much money is going to be spent.
Well, kind of in the same way that the board doesn't necessarily decide teacher by teacher, are we going to compensate you for those extra credit hours? I mean, the idea is to approve a program in advance that you're comfortable with, and then we implement it. But there, and the other thing is we want to be consistent. That's so important. If we want employees to understand clearly what that career path is for them and how they can make their way down that path. And if it's not laid out, if it's just up to whim or whatever, somebody who might choose to advocate.
There
for
is
them,
one
we don't want to do
difference
that.
there, though, is teachers are required to go get education. Yes, if you want to keep your teaching certificate, if you don't go get the education, keep moving on.
Right, but we compensate way
take
beyond.
your
that.
certificate away.
Yeah.
But we compensate way beyond that on our, I mean, we have teachers who have 80 additional credit hours that they get compensated for.
Steve, can
that's-
I
sure.
interrupt here? So if that is a genuine concern of the board about, just staying informed on how much this actually gets implemented, how hard would it be for us to run a report whenever this happens to the board so they can see classified training?
Oh, absolutely. That's something that we can, we would create a process where people, notify us of their intention and, an approval
And
process.
it could be
we
one
could
on
certainly
one of
share that
our
with the
monthly
board.
reports.
Sure.
So if that's a concern, we can make that part of the motion, or we could just have an agreement to get that for you guys.
And I might add, oddly enough, in our district, we don't have anything in place for certified administrators, for our principals. Now, whether they would choose to take advantage of that or not, I don't know, but there's nothing built into the salary
Well, in
schedule for
all
them.
reality, there's all kinds of classes and seminars that Ms. Johnston could take as janitorial, and she should be compensated.
And particularly if they do it at their own expense and on their own time.
Does that make a difference if they're doing it on their own as opposed
Typically,
to?
I don't think that happens very often. I've asked classified staff to take training, but it's always on the clock, and they get, it's part of their hours.
But that's not part of what you're talking about here.
Right, not necessarily. It could be.
We do that
it could be.
occasionally for teachers, not often. But
Like,
occasionally.
here's an example, just a hypothetical so maybe we can all get on the same page. We had a roof training here we hosted this past year. 2 of our maintenance employees sat through it for 16 hours. That would qualify them if this was in place, that would have qualified them for a little raise, the $5 cents an hour for 16 hours right there. That meets the thing. So they would have got paid for the training, and then that 5 cents an hour after they get certified with the training.
And we do, just to let you know, this isn't necessarily hypothetical. We do have a couple of employees who have requested this, and they've been asking for it for a long time, and are getting ready to start a program and kind of hoping to get something in place here.
So at what point does this blow out our salary schedule? Because we have a salary schedule for all those, and there's.
Well, there's 5 cents an hour per employee. So his calculation for the year is, what was it?
104, if it's the 5 cents.
Yeah.
So the max they could get is 16 hours. They could only get a.
No, that's for every 16 hours.
That's for
What if
every-
we had a year where we needed them to take a lot of training?
Yeah.
At
Okay,
5
so
cents
we're
for
paying
every-
for the training, we're paying them to sit through it, and then we're gonna give them a raise? See, I don't think that's
not what I
right.
just said.
That's
No.
right. That is right. That's
Well,
what it is, but he wants to qualify that.
No,
Go ahead.
yeah, not necessarily. Think about how we do it with teachers. Teachers go out and get college credit hours so that they can, obviously it helps them professionally, but also so they can move on down on the salary schedule. Occasionally, and I don't even know that we have for a couple of years, we offer something in-house that we pay for that we consider really, really important for whatever reason, and we will allow them to use that towards that credit. It doesn't happen very often. I foresee it being the same thing with classified people. This is something they got to go out and do on their own at their own expense, unless there's something really big, really important that we want to place a lot of emphasis on and say, okay, if you'll agree to do all this extra work and do this, we'll pay for it and you'll get credit. I mean, that could happen.
Okay, sidebar, Eldon,
Yes, ma'am.
when they send you to this training that you go to all the time with APS, do they give you a raise after they've sent you to it and you become more qualified?
But 90% of this is not going to be that.
Well, I think there needs to be a caveat that it's got to be out of their dollar and their time, not on ours.
Well, that's the idea, unless, again, like I said, there's some just like we do with teachers, if there's just some initiative that we're trying to promote here in the district, we want to get people certified in some particular area, and then we will allow them to use that. But 90% 50% or more of it is gonna be on their own dime, so to speak.
Well, I just think that we need to say it has to be on their own time, out of their own pocket, or we don't give them a raise, period. If we require it
Yeah, and that's the
and
intent.
we,
We'll make
we present it, then why should, we're paying them and we're paying for it. We're paying them to do it, we're paying for it, why should we give them a raise?
I agree.
Right, we'll make-
If we're paying them 16 hours to sit in class for something that they want to learn, then why should we give them a raise on top of that?
right, and that's the intent. And so we'll make sure that that language is.
So like this roofing
We
training
haven't-
last year, we wouldn't give them a raise for because we wanted them to go through that. We paid for them to sit through that.
Now,
Right, because, I mean, other companies do that all the time. They want their employees to learn something specific. It does two things. I mean, you can argue it either way. So it helps the company, the school, one, they know something about the roof, but it also helps the employee as well, even though they don't necessarily get a raise out of it. If, heaven forbid, they ever decided to go somewhere else, it is something that they have in their pocket to put on a resume. 'Cause that's what we do out there at the plant. I have a lot of things on the resume to help me get another job. If I need one.
and I'm here to tell you, it does help you get another job, and it does help you get big pay.
But we're just hoping
let-
that they'll
Yeah,
Yeah.
let
choose
me
to stay with
interject one
us.
thing here. And I think that's all accurate. I'm not refuting anything that's been said, but we don't have a problem with classified employees wanting to overdo the training right now. This would be an incentive to help us encourage them to do training at a pretty minimal cost. Sometimes it can be the class. I mean, they're like, how is this going to benefit me? But I think after they sat through that roof training, as an example, it was like maybe not both of them, but one of them at least was like, yeah, I learned a lot. So it's an incentive for us to get them trained because they're not paid a lot anyway. So it's just a little extra carrot for that. I do see that, but just so you know, that was the thought. At least that's why I'm behind this. I thought. I do see that argument, but it's just an incentive for them to get trained. Not many classified are coming to us for training that I see. I don't know if you're seeing things I don't, or you guys.
I don't. If you don't mind me throwing one thing out.
Go ahead.
And this is the first time I heard of it, so I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on it. I haven't had the chance to think. But one of the benefits of paying and approving something like this for training is it only helps us when the say maintenance. I'm thinking maintenance. When a guy that's working maintenance will go out and get trained, it only benefits us in the future because they can do stuff for the district that they're qualified to do. And we lose maintenance guys all the time because they're getting paid whatever, $14 an hour, whatever it is. I'm just going off the top of my head, but they can go get a construction job and make more than that. And so it's always this revolving door. Well, this would be a chance for them to improve as employees and also maybe potentially make a little more
But on the
salary.
other side of that sword, truly, why do we want to pay them to increase their hireability elsewhere?
True.
And the only time I have a problem with it is when we're paying for the training and we're paying them wages and then we're giving them a raise for what we just paid for. I have a problem with that.
I think what Steve was trying to do, though, is just kind of keep it consistent with what we do with teachers. So just to put it in perspective, but Jason wanted to say something. Go ahead.
So it's not just maintenance guys, it's also IT people. I encourage my workers and even myself, hey, go get more education, go do something more that's going to actually help you out. And then what do I tell them next? Well, you might not get a raise, you might get a raise. There's no motivation behind it. But then I also say, oh, but you know what? Holbrook's going to pay $15,000 more if you get this certification.
But back up. You just said, go out and get that.
Right.
Not, I'm going to pay you to sit here and I'm going to pay for this class and then we'll give you a raise.
Oh,
That's the only place I have a
No,
problem with it.
and Rhonda, that's not the the program is what you're saying. It's not-
Okay, as long as we're not,
Then the wording needs to be fixed.
Yeah,
Because we were given right off the bat an example of 16 hours that we paid for them to
Yep.
be here, and that gives them a raise.
that's,
So it
My
needs to
example.
specifically say something that they went out and did on their own dime.
I'm all about,
No,
I would love to
rewarding
give them a
it.
raise for. Don't get me wrong. Teachers, classified, anybody working in education is not getting paid enough. And if there's a way that we can figure out that they can do it, great. But I don't like this way.
I have to tell you, in my document that I kind of laid out, that's exactly what I said in there. I was just trying to make
Summarize it?
summarize
Condense
it,
it,
and give you an opportunity to discuss and express your views, which you obviously have. But that's exactly how the full goal plan is written out.
So do we want to
Revise your
revise
motion.
this and look at it next?
Whoever made the motion, yeah, can revise
Board
it or
meeting.
whatever you guys want to do.
Or do we want to tell them what we want and do it right now?
I'm good with revising it and doing it right now.
Steve, how about a teacher who decides to become qualified or associated with a university or MPC or whatever, so that students can get dual credits? Would this apply to them?
And we already have
No.
something in place
They
for
have
that.
an expenditure.
Yeah, no, they get a stipend for that, but it's a different kind of stipend. It's not, they get it based on, for every semester that they do dual enrollment classes. They don't teach a dual enrollment class in a particular semester, they don't get the stipend. But, and maybe this is more to your point, if they have to get extra college credit hours to qualify to be a college teacher, then yes, absolutely, we compensate them for that in our salary schedule. They get compensated basically for every credit hour.
But they're
that they-
doing it on their time and their dollars.
Exactly.
Isn't there a max that they can move on the schedule every year? Or is
There
that
used to
changed?
be. Used to be.
But we don't have that anymore. It's so expensive to get the stuff that we don't get a lot of teachers going out and credit every year, every semester like they used to.
So whoever made the
We
motion,
don't
can-
compensate enough to
We can just
To worry about
modify.
it?
to
motion.
make it worthwhile.
Whoever
for
made it,
teachers
yeah.
to go out and
Make a new-
spend the money
Who
on
made it?
taking a
Gotcha.
college class.
Okay, well,
Well,
I
I was wrong.
revise my
Okay.
motion to, where are we at?
to reflect the thought that this is,
Well,
E?
what's under full-time salaried employee? What's the difference between the top one and the bottom?
it's a program for bachelors. It's like a program for a degree.
Degree or professional certifications versus, for teachers, you get compensated for every credit hour that you earn. And plus, if you get a master's degree, then you get another bump for that
$200
master's
or
degree, or if you happen to get a doctorate. If you get 2 master's degrees, you get another $500 a year. So this is meant to be, sort of equivalent to that. So you
So
can,
how much do our teachers get if they get a master's?
500.
500?
But they're a 10-month employee as opposed to a year employee. That's why the bigger number.
For these, he figured it over a bigger amount of time, divided it by
Right.
12 months
I get that.
instead of the 10.
Right?
So it
So-
would be the same, is that way, am I
Yes,
right?
Yes,
So does our superintendent and our principals fall under that?
yes.
No.
Well, probably not the superintendent, because his superintendent salaries are
Well,
typically
the reason why I
negotiated.
ask
We're
is
separately.
certified.
there's
We're certified.
certain ones that we specifically approve contracts for
Right.
every year, and we approve raises, and
Yeah, it would,
so wouldn't we do that every year when we redo their contract?
right, it would apply to the principals. Superintendents,
Principals are certified, correct?
Right.
right.
So they're already under the other umbrella, not this one.
No,
No, they aren't, they're on this, they're not.
they're
on
under
the
different
contract.
classification now.
Yeah, they only get the 500.
So they wouldn't be under this either, though,
I'm
would
not,
they?
don't worry, I'm not going to pay 30,000 to get my doctorate to get 500 a year. You won't have to worry about me. You will not have to worry about me. Now, if the top
Dr.
one
Miller?
qualifies for me, I might.
Okay, so I amend my motion that this only be done when it's out of their pocket and on their time.
In a second.
Do we have
That
more?
was the only difference, right?
Yeah, the only other thing is, on occasion, like once every 2 or 3 years, the superintendent might approve something, but he could bring that to the board specifically. But if you have a class, that he wants, so yeah.
But
What
that,
are you-
that's
what
the
are you
same thing as
talking
with the
about?
Give us an
teachers, though.
example of what you're talking about.
Roofing class, we ain't doing it.
No, no, and honestly, I'm not sure I can come up with one on the classified side. What I'm trying to do is make it, create some equivalency with the teachers. And I do know probably about 2 or 3 years ago, we had every teacher that had to go through some kind of a training, and frankly, I don't recall. what it
SEI,
was.
yeah.
Yeah, and we allowed them to add another hour or 2 hours, whatever it was, to their professional development or to their educational credits. So all I was wanting to do is to be able to allow that sort of superintendent-approved exception on occasion if there was just a real district.
Well, being it doesn't happen all that often.
We could bring it to the
I'll
board.
bet you could bring it to us and we
Absolutely.
can say yay.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to just free reign.
Sure.
No. You gotta put,
And-
this is
And I agree with you.
open range, but
100%.
I like fences.
So,
Don't like that.
are we ready to vote?
Yeah,
Okay. Rhonda?
yes.
Dayton? Yes. Myself, yes. Jeremy?
Yes.
Eldon?
I have a hard time with it because I don't like the. But doesn't matter. I'm gonna say no.
Thank you.
Doesn't matter.
Hey,
'cause you
it's
guys already
good
approved
that
it.
you say no. We shouldn't always agree on
I
everything.
agree.
Right.
It's a no.
On the motion, it's a no.
Okay.
And we shouldn't have as much fun as we do, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Now we're on E. I motion that we update the pay schedule for the year 2021. Okay.
This is to reflect the stuff
Yeah.
we just talked about.
Right. This is just, I made some changes to reflect this, and so I put this on the agenda so that if you approved the professional development plan, that it would be included in that salary schedule. Plus, the changes that you've made in the past now have been reflected in the salary schedule. So I wanted to have you to have a kind of a finished copy with all the changes so far. So that's what that is. And so there's really nothing new or different that you haven't already approved other than what you, the professional development just voted for. And again, we'll make sure that there's language added in there to ensure that this, be a employee, any professional development be the employee's expense, credit on the salary schedule.
Thank you. Discussion? Myself, yes. Jeremy?
Yes.
Eldon?
Yes.
Dayton?
Yes.
Rhonda? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Payment, I motion that we, not exactly sure how to word this. The grad night in payment instead of grad night and senior trip to the seniors.
We on 6, oh yeah.
We're
6
on F as in farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Frank.
There's a recommended motion on it.
Okay. That we approve the payment of the class of 2020 graduates as presented.
I'll second it.
Dayton already did.
Well, he needs to speak up. Me and Mr. Winter didn't hear him.
Okay. Is this, oh, Mr. Fields.
Yeah, so you have a recommendation from me to, because of COVID, they're not going on a senior trip. They did some fundraising, and the sponsor, the students are asking that they get, according to how many points they earned through fundraising, some cash back in lieu of the trip.
Okay. I have some questions
Okay, sure.
about how much what's the minimum, what's the low end, what's the high end that these seniors are getting to put in their pocket?
I'll let, he did some work on this.
Yeah, I
one.
did. So they don't, it sounds like, what I understand, they're all getting the same. If they qualified for the senior trip, they're all getting
Okay.
the same. And that would be roughly $600 unless, kind of depending on what project they decide to do for the school, and we have not decided that yet.
Is
That's about 3/4 of what the money that they have.
Okay. Is any of this stuff that their class didn't earn that they inherited?
No, that really doesn't happen anymore. The monies from previous classes goes to student council.
Okay. And none of this money came from anything other than they raised themselves?
Not to my knowledge. I don't see how it would be possible.
Okay.
So no.
Sometimes they might get tax credits, but that actually goes on a different account.
So I'm glad to see that you had an attorney letter in there, because I was wondering when I first saw that if it was legal. Because we were told as seniors that was not legal. Because our senior year, we had a lot of money that we had earned.
Good Lord, that was forever ago.
I know, but that's how much that this can upset people is all of a sudden they said, this year you can't go out of state. And so we got to go to the state fair one night, and we went skiing one day, and we had more money left over than these guys have, and we gave it to the next class, who then got to go out of state. Because that's what we were told. We couldn't gift it to the students. It had to go to the next class.
So you're glad I got an attorney letter in there?
I'm glad you got an attorney letter that said that we can do that.
Did we check with ADE,
What do you mean?
the people that audit us?
Yeah, actually, we checked with the Attorney General, and he has an opinion. It's very long. I think it's like that he's written 30 pages, and it's in here, and part of the hard packet that's printed out. And part of it, I can reference the part says that it doesn't have that exact case that we're talking about, but it does say that it is allowable, and that's what the attorney references in her letter to us.
And this is something that's not going to be a precedent.
No, it's just because they didn't have the senior trip and have all the funds.
So when they do a fundraiser, they're supposed to tell us the purpose, and to give cash at the end of the year, there's no way that's going to pass me. It's not going to pass the current principal to even get to you guys. So there has to be some kind of educational purpose behind a fundraiser, basically. So that says this won't set a precedent. That's our agreement here.
Unless we're in COVID every year, and then we won't have to worry about it. Because we're
yeah.
going to quit doing a lot of stuff.
And you don't have to have fundraisers.
Huh?
And you don't have to have fundraisers.
That's
That
right.
is true.
Okay.
They won't have any money to get back.
And we have reduced senior trips over the past few years, and I mean, if we need to do it even more, it's been on my mind, just because of the amount of fundraisers we do, but that's not up for today, so.
Any more discussion? Rhonda?
Give them the money.
Dayton?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Jeremy?
Yes.
Eldon?
Yep.
Okay.
I move that we issue gift cards directly to qualifying students from the federal Johnson O'Malley grant funds.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
So these are gift cards specifically for the purpose of items that they would have been receiving otherwise if it wasn't a COVID year. I don't know if that's
And the only reason I say do it is because the attorney says it's okay.
Eldon?
Yep.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dayton?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion, possible bond election.
Yes, you have.
I'll make a motion that we open for discussion, discussing a possible bond election.
I'll second it.
There you go.
Okay, so there is a deadline coming up, like Mr. Winter referenced earlier. It's early June, to cut to the point. If we were to do this, we need to have another special governing board meeting towards the end of the month. I can give you information about this. There's some bulleted information in your backup here. The items that he did some research on, I included. If the board wanted to do this, I have some suggestions. But I'll wait and see what your thoughts are before I take up any of your time.
I'll be the one to open up. Personally, I think we just had a hard enough time getting through it. Override, I am not willing to put a bond out there right now. Just saying. I think we need to make sure how we're dealing with the override. People are happy with that, and I'm not ready to try and put a bond out there. I think it'd be tough to get. That's just my opinion.
Okay, I reached out to someone that I know that dealt with this stuff with APS for years and years. It wasn't my husband, it was somebody else. I said, are they able to get tax cut for the taxes for like on a bond? My reply is, it certainly doesn't benefit them because it significantly increases their operating cost, which minimizes their profits, which can negatively impact their stock, or can make a specific plant less profitable. It gets too complicated to really go into more than that. Bottom line, increases the cost of operating the plant so it can make the plant non-competitive for selling electricity from that plant, and that's what drives corporate's decisions about whether or not to operate that plant. Make sense? So answer is yes, corporations write off property taxes, which is where the bond money comes from. It can really hurt the plant because it increases their cost to operate, which I totally get. I don't know, I'm sure anybody not understand what that reference was?
I'm not.
I mean, we're already looking at,
Does it really make a difference if the plant's closing?
pardon?
Would it really make a difference if the plant is closing? We're not worried about operating costs.
So you're a sinking ship, let's fire on you some more. I don't agree.
Yeah, here's the unknown. The way I would put this is that the question is still when. So they're probably shutting down. They've told us that, but is it next year or is it in 2028? I mean, that's a big range. We don't know. So that's my take on that. If you follow what I'm saying. They could decide to leave next year, is my understanding, as soon as next year or so. Or it could be years, right? Some of you work at APS. If I have that wrong, correct me, please.
The longest they'll be there is the end of 2024. Maybe still there, count for something as they're tearing things down in 2025. Unless a miracle occurs and things change, but you never know.
Like a global pandemic and the price of gasoline going down to practically zero.
Well, that doesn't help that plan out.
The City Corp will not generate power after December of 26. That's a set.
December of this year.
Yeah, it's this year.
No, it's when the coal power runs out next year. Yeah. They said they were shutting down in December, but technically they're shutting down as soon as their coal runs out next year or whatever.
There is a
Again.
lot of unknowns.
Right, no, I'm with you. I'm just
We
saying.
want to be good neighbors and good partners with APS. They've
I just
treated us
I
well.
don't think it's morally responsible to kick someone when they're down. I mean, I don't know about how the rest of y'all see it, but that power plant's been feeding me since I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I didn't even go to school here.
Yeah, that's right. I wouldn't say passing a bond would be kicking them when they're down. I think this would be negligible to their budget, probably their overall state budget. They deal with a lot of money, depending on how much we haven't even talked about how much we would go out for bond. There's a lot of unknowns with the power plant and with the future, but I wouldn't say it's kicking them. maybe they would support our bond. We don't know because we haven't formally asked. But it would cost them. Yes, but not kick them, in my opinion.
Well,
Not all of it would come from that. I mean, some still comes from our taxpayers.
Yeah,
I don't think our taxpayers
want it.
get rid of the plant regardless. I don't think our taxpayers are ready to pay any more. It's my opinion.
This discussion we're having now, isn't it really centered around what are our options? And our option is good bond, our option is not good bond, our option is how much it's gonna cost for all of these items. Whether we wanna go into 2026, basically with everything paid off and all of our systems in good shape. What we're discussing now, I think we need to decide what are the options.
Okay, I'll take that one if you guys would like. So, of course, our option is to proceed with something this year, or an option is to say no. We have an override in place, and this is something we don't want to take on, or we could kind of put it off until we know some more information about things, maybe to next year. So those are basically the three options as I see it when it comes to this. You know, if you decide to go out for one, discussing the amount would definitely be an option within that option. So.
Well, one thought I have is maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe think about it for next year, but to have in that time frame go through and look at everything. I mean, Mr. Winters showed us a whole bunch of different things that we could work on, but what do we want to target? What do we want to, and that would help us to nail down an amount if we decide we want to do that.
For example, you've done, who knows if it'll keep continuing or not, but you've done a great job of getting the, FSB or FBA or whatever, to do some roofs for us and stuff, which is one of the major things that we need to get done. I never heard, did we ever get the bus?
Yeah.
We did finally end up getting that? So as time goes on, it seems like things sometimes work out to get us where we need to be, and that if we actually have to get to crunch time and work some things out, we've been able to do it. And we should be in a better situation than we were in by quite a bit, because we just got the override and we didn't go over 10, we went for 15. So I would have a real hard time.
and looking from a different point of view, I believe Mr. Winter told me that if we had to do a bond now, where APS was helping, that it would cost the normal taxpayer how much?
About $13 a year.
Okay, we just asked our neighbors to pay more for the override.
But now,
I don't know that I could look my neighbor in the face and say, I need some more.
but that's misleading, because it's $13 a year if you go with the bond. But if you don't go with the bond, all of those expenditures to the taxpayers are going to be much, much more.
I'm still not convinced that we have to,
Perhaps we're overlooking one thing. A bond agent, when we asked a bond agent, I think this guy that in the past has offered to come down and talk to us. And I think he has different approaches. He doesn't necessarily say, let's do a bond through APS. He can get investors. There are lots of options on the table that the bond agent can talk to us about. We aren't deciding tonight whether to pass it or not. I think we're looking tonight for the options, and the option, one of the options would be to get this bond agent come in and explain to us what a lot of the options are that we aren't aware of.
How much does that cost?
He might do it if he thought we were serious about it. It could be at no cost, but there definitely could be an expense to that. travel from Phoenix, and then his hourly rate. Here's another thing that Mr. Winter brought up that I think you guys can think about. We talk about the unknown with the power plant, the unknown with COVID, how municipal bonds or school bonds will be impacted because of COVID is very something we don't know and could very much play a part into if it's smart to go into bond. We just don't know right now. I would say that it would be harder for us to maybe sell those. I don't know for sure. I'm not a bond agent, but possibly it could be harder for us to sell the school bonds, given the fact that whoever's investing in them would know that the power plant is closing down or whenever, could leave, and that the economy is what it is.
But ultimately, that amount has got to be paid back.
That's right.
So we're borrowing money is what it amounts to. And we're betting on APS paying a large part of it back if we do it now.
But if APS leaves, our ability to make those loans goes away. That's the key to all of this.
Yeah. And that doesn't strengthen the case for that bond at all.
$90 million tax base that we're borrowing from, with APS here, APS leaves, we don't have that. So going out for a loan after APS leaves is going to be really rough.
Rough is another relative term, so it would be more on taxpayers
How long?
in the future.
How long does it take to pay the bond back? Is that like a year?
We could set that typically 5, depending on the amount. You can set it on a 1 year rate. I've met with the bond council like 3 years ago. You can do a bond for 1 year. So 3 years, 5 years, I think. So typically 5.
You said something about the solar, but I'm not seeing it on here.
Yeah, it should be on there. It's the debt service. It says debt service on our solar lease agreement. What this would do,
Okay.
It's not costing the district anything, so we got to make sure that's understood. But the district really won't see profits on the solar of significance until 2029. It is.
But if we did get a bond and we did pay that instead of paying it yearly,
Yeah,
then
we could
would
pay
get
that off early and start to. That would be one of the maybe the best things to consider if we went to a bond. You pay that off early, and the district could reap the benefits of the solar program earlier.
So not to throw, I have a question on that. If you pay it off, does that then get rid of their responsibility coming and fixing any panels or anything like that that go out?
Probably, but we pay for that anyway. So it's part of the agreement, so I think it's probably not a factor. They charge us for that, or they take it out of what the panels produce. So that's pretty much a wash.
But they might charge us more if we weren't indebted to them.
but we've already fought with them anyway, haven't we?
Yeah, never mind. I won't even. They've recommended we go with the different maintenance company, and we told them no, we're gonna, because it's part of the agreement. So we want to stay with them and not complicate that program any more than it already is.
So what do we want to do?
I think
Well,
we've heard
this was
from
just
him.
open
so-
for discussion only.
Yeah.
So, but
Do we want
I
to?
think we've heard two opinions where we think no, but there's 3 other people sitting here.
I would say at least put it off for the year to have it all.
Are you running for the board again?
Nope.
Ah! that's why he wants to put it off for a year.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, we haven't seen our actual budget, right? We have not approved the budget for
That's right.
2021.
That's right.
I would at least like to see
It's a good point.
what our budget issues are for 2021 before we say.
We need more money.
Yeah.
But one of the things here is if we put it off a year, then.
That's a year less that we have APS to help pay.
Yeah. And that,
I have also learned one lesson in the 7 years that I've been on a board. Don't let yourself feel pressured into anything and move it forward faster than, because it usually comes back and bites you in the backside.
I completely.
I feel like we're running up our MasterCard to pay off our Visa, and I just don't think we should do it.
Even if you decide to wait a year, which, is good advice, that's still, the mandate is still there to talk to the bond agent. Because the more we know now, the better decisions we can make. So I
Agreed.
think the first item on the agenda is to start gathering the facts, and he is probably the main person that can allow us to go forward in decision making. And so regardless of whether we do it this year, next year, a meeting on budget and the bond agent to brief all of you is probably mandated.
We can have, as an option, have a bond council at like a work session for the board and administration where we could sit there and hear them out and ask questions. It might be a good way to get information and get some of the facts. Not necessarily that we do it anytime soon, unless, the board wanted to.
I like that idea.
Would you be able to, or be willing to do it cheaper if we did it remote?
Probably, yeah. Good idea. I bet that's true. They usually make their money when districts go to bond, so
So
they're.
there's an IT guy for you right there. He wants to do it remote.
If it saves us money, you betcha.
Yep.
That's a good
Let's-
idea.
I think we look that direction and see, can you come back with some more information down that
Sure.
direction? Is that okay?
I'm good with that. I'm not opposed
When do you guys
to
want
more
to?
information.
Yeah.
As long as it's not when I gotta irrigate.
So yeah, we can do it anytime. We can reach out to them
Okay.
and see. It's good to do it closer to when we're going to take action, so we have those things fresh in our mind. And the interest rates on bonds could fluctuate so much, and our bond rating can change. So, it depending on what you guys want to know. It would depend on when I would want to line this out. If you just want to know something about our expenses or whatever, I can get that for you here.
I would like to know that. What is it going to cost us to talk with them, to see where we're at?
It'd probably be no charge if we lined out something on if we committed to use them if we did pass a bond.
So this is a question that a dummy like me doesn't know. Is there a way to do a bond where the taxpayers don't have to pay it back?
I don't think so.
Look into that, would you?
I mean, because we were talking about options, and you were saying, well, you could go out to investors, and investors could invest. Well, is there a way to do a bond where the taxpayers aren't?
But what he was talking about was
Right.
investors, and then we pay them back with interest. So they make money on their money, just like a savings bond.
Right.
Take your MasterCard to pay off your Visa, and you still gotta pay interest.
Point being, it's always the tax base that pays it back.
Yep.
Do you want 100% of the taxpayers, or do you want the cooperation of the corporation?
Yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell you what's going to happen in a couple of years. I have a good idea, but I don't know exactly what's gonna happen.
Okay.
All right.
During the override though, there was a concentrated opposition. For whatever reason they were opposed, it was there. And a lot of bad information went out. And I think if we decide to go with the bond, I'm not saying we do, if we decide we better be better organized when we're at that point. Because late in the game, I said at the post office, handing out brochures and correcting a lot of false information. So with that first vote, we didn't have that information to the public. The second vote, the information was out and passed. So I think we better learn from that.
Yeah, if we do it, we
I agree.
need to get stuff out there.
Next item.
Are we done discussing?
No, there's some more.
No, I'm tired of sitting.
Well, that part.
Oh, yeah, I think we're done with that one.
So, for future agenda items, we're still looking at pay increases for employees.
Yeah, I think we need to look at it. We need to get some staffing things settled and then calculate what we're going to need to pay for those things we've already approved from the override that will be in place for FY21, and then see if the governing board would like to try and add more to that or not. We'll have a recommendation by next month. We'll have it on the agenda.
Will we have staff?
Any way we can see beforehand, because it's really tough to get it on Monday and come and talk about it on Tuesday, especially a budget. Can we get it? You know, because it doesn't hurt for the board, since we're the ones that have to approve the budget anyway, to say, well, maybe that's not really that important to us. Give me a good reason why we have to spend money there. Can't we spend it over here, type of thing? But it's hard to do that if you get a whole budget one day before. And you're like,
Yeah, we'll definitely
and then you
make
also
that.
get we have to approve it now. So
Are we about
we'll have to
staff?
see it.
No.
What's
I'm
the-
getting close. but-
What's the potential of that being ready next month?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question there, because, I mean, what if we find out that school's not going to open until
Well, yeah,
September or October?
I understand there's still a ton of
or
what
we
ifs.
find out that our enrollment's going to, not be funded if we have an influx or a decrease in students. So that's tough. We do have open positions that we've committed to try and fill, but so your question was, what are the odds that we're going to be completely staffed
Well,
by
I'm just,
June?
how close are we going to be with staffing so that we can make a better decision on
Close
what
enough.
money
I
we
think we'll be
have?
close enough.
Okay, that's
Close
my
enough.
question.
That's our goal. We might, like Mr. Fields is saying, that we probably will know what positions that we need, but we might not have the person
Mhm.
that's doing it.
But we
Well, at
can
least you have
fund,
the number.
we can fund
This
that.
is what we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Sidebar, go ahead. So I know we approved like contracts, all the staff we've had, but we've had a lot of resignations. Has the staff that is staying seen their contracts be able to sign them? They have, okay. 'Cause I don't want to run into the same thing we did last year where we.
No, we got
June,
that.
they're like, I
taken care of.
haven't ever seen a
They've
contract.
already got them and
Okay,
signed
good.
those that are returned.
So we've had contracts signed and come back.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
okay. And are we getting contracts out to the people we're hiring quickly so they can sign them and get them
Yeah.
back in? Is
Yeah,
that
relatively quickly, yes.
Okay. All right.
That's-
Any other things that we want to look at upcoming board meetings? Okay. I motion that we adjourn, time of 8 o'clock.
Thank you. Oh, we got